Hi, Meteorologist Tony Petrarca in the Pinpoint 12 Forecast Center. Thanks for checking in with us on this kind of a quick Facebook Live update. Did you hear the rumor? Did you hear it? Did you hear it? Snow? Yeah, winter storm on the way. And here's some of the latest winter storm watch really for the entire area, with the exception of Nantucket. Now, this doesn't go into effect until actually tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, specifically 7 o'clock tomorrow night through 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. So tell you what we know and what we feel confident with. This isn't going to be one of those, is the storm going to maybe go out to sea and be a miss? We feel as though we will be impacted by this storm. So confidence is high on that. Confidence is high that this will be impactful in terms of travel. Confidence is high that we will get at least moderate accumulations of snow and enough to shovel and plow. The confidence is high on the timing. This is mainly a Wednesday night into Thursday, specifically into Thursday morning, and then shutting down and ending by early on Thursday evening. Of course, as always, the tricky part with the forecast, the snowfall amounts, and we'll get to that in just a second. Take a look at the timeline here. The first flakes of snow starting during early Wednesday evening between roughly 8 and 10 o'clock. At that time, I really don't expect any issues with travel. But once we get towards midnight and into the early morning hours of Thursday, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, that's the heaviest snow, some gusty wind, some poor travel, and that'll continue Thursday morning up until about noon, and then gradually throughout the mid to late afternoon hours on Thursday, the intensity of the snow will start to taper down, and the whole thing is out of here and gone by Thursday evening and Thursday night. So it is a Wednesday night, Thursday kind of a deal as far as stormy weather. So impacts, well, they should be fairly significant. And here's the situation. I think statewide, we're looking at accumulations generally between 8 and 12 inches of snow. Now, it wouldn't surprise me, especially on northwestern suburbs, if there's maybe an isolated 13, 14, but we're going to go with a general 8 to 12. We'll continue to use that as a base. And then obviously, certainly check back with us during our evening newscast tonight, our late newscast at 10 and 11, and even tomorrow morning with Michelle. I mean, tomorrow morning is actually cold and dry. There's no storm yet. And see if these numbers will have to get tweaked up, either up or down as new data is coming in. Gusty winds, somewhere between 35 and 50 miles per hour, kind of blowing that snow sideways and drifting it a little bit. And then maybe some minor coastal flooding, especially eastern Massachusetts, the Cape and the islands, at the time of high tide. So our threat tracker today, the remainder of the afternoon, we're taping this as of 2:30 in the afternoon. Looks fine this evening and overnight. And really the daylight hours of Wednesday, it's fine. Your morning and evening commute tomorrow, it's looking good. But later Wednesday night and into Thursday, that's when we start to ramp things up. Any questions or?
Somebody's wondering if we're going to get 2 feet of snow.
So you may have seen on, certainly that was starting on social media back. I've seen the post on Sunday night of a lot of, there's the potential for 1 to 2 feet. And I guess that is probably half correct because the potential is there for at least a foot of snow. I think pushing 2 feet it should be fairly difficult to get. We're not anticipating 24 inches, but 12, 13, 14 in some areas would not surprise me, but closing in on 2 feet at this point, we don't see that. But regardless, it's a high-impact storm. It's probably one of the largest we've seen in the last really couple of years, really since 2018. We haven't had many big storms in the last couple of years. On the satellite photo, everything is quiet, and the system that we're tracking is still across the Central Plains. In fact, you think about it, the storm isn't even on the map yet as far as it developing. So there's a ways to go. But we'll be watching a system out across the Central Plains. It'll dive into the Gulf of Mexico, and then a developing storm will track north and east. And you know the drill. The exact track of the storm and the strength of the storm will dictate the amount of snow in your backyard. So while we're going with a broad or a general 8 to 12, which obviously in itself is significant, check back with us tonight and even tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon to see how these numbers are kind of tweaked. But that's what we're going to go with at least or at least 8 inches, but the potential is there for amounts even higher, up to 12, even 13 inches.
Somebody's wondering if it's going to be a heavy, wet snow.
Every time there's a snowstorm, you know who asks that question all the time? Mike Monicavo. And with good reason, too, because the texture of snow really plays a big, big difference, and not just the ability or the comfort of removing it, But, obviously dry snow doesn't really cling to tree limbs and power lines like wet snow. For the most part, this should be a dry, kind of a fluffy snow. But near the coastline where the temperature may not be quite as cold, it may be more of a wet and sticky snow. So the ability to cling to tree limbs and power lines may be a little higher there. And I guess the one thing that we'll watch closely that, is kind of a wild card in the forecast is the coast. We're seeing some signs on some of our computer guidance of maybe a little bit of sleet and rain mixing in along the immediate south shore. And if that were to happen, it would hold down the snowfall accumulations. But even so, even the coastline would still end up with enough snow to shovel and plow. But your amounts, if that happens, may get reduced a little bit. All right, so that is the latest. Now, as of now, actually, the one map that everybody wants to see. All right, so we're going to go with statewide 8 to 12, leaning more towards the higher amounts in the northern suburbs, the slightly lower amounts along the coastline, and going with 4 to 8 on the outer Cape and the islands. So far, it's just a winter storm watch, but more than likely in the next couple of hours, the Weather Service will translate the watch over to a warning. So more than likely we'll be upgraded to a winter storm warning this evening for the storm that's coming up on Wednesday night and into Thursday. Still a fluid situation, still information, raw data still coming in. That's the initial forecast, 8 to 12. Still don't let it be the last forecast that you see. Check back with us this evening. Check back with us at 10 and 11. Check back with Michelle tomorrow morning and at noontime tomorrow on 12 News to see if these numbers have to be adjusted. But regardless, it is a high-impact storm, especially in terms of travel later tomorrow night and especially on Thursday morning. Welcome to winter. We'll talk to you soon.